when I take children to the sanctuary for the first time, and we look at the symbols, eternal light, menorah, ark, I ask them to imagine where their parents keep things that are very special, very precious to them. And the answer that I am looking for, which doesn't always materialize, is a jewelry box. And then I open the ark, explaining that it is there that we keep the Torah, the most precious jewel of our tradition, the 5 books of Moses. When that same Moses brought the 10 Commandments down from the heights of Sinai and was disappointed by the sight of people dancing before the golden calf, he smashed them in anger. And what happened to those fragments? They were gathered up and placed in the portable ark alongside the second set of commandments that were intact. Even the broken tablets were sacred, not idols, words. Wherever we Jews make our home, literacy is part of our expression, hence the moniker, people of the book. Compulsory education began as young as age 3 for boys. And by opening up a book, I can carry on a conversation with sages who lived 1,500 years ago or even longer, and you can too. Through liturgy and study, we have countless daily interactions with books and literature, which is why book banning feels so personal. Literacy is a hallmark of Jewish life. And when I think about the power of books, one story in particular comes to mind. A student came to my office for bar mitzvah prep along with a parent and his sister. And during the lesson, she chose to hang out in the cozy sitting area outside, preferring to read instead of listening to her brother chant the Torah blessings, as she might have said, again, with a roll of her eyes. When I walked them to the elevator, even before she joined her family, it was clear that she had been crying. I shared tissues, but didn't ask. Her mom was right there, and I knew she had the support she needed. And later, her mother thought to let me know that everything was all right, noting that her daughter was reacting to what she had read. She had told her mother, "Mom, it was as if it was written about me." And what seemed unremarkable then on that quiet afternoon is entirely relevant now. A child found herself in words. She saw some aspect of her own life revealed as if in a mirror. Because a book taught her something beyond her own experience, her world was expanded. Something in her heart cracked open, and she saw herself in a new way. I am for experiential learning as much as anyone else, but there is more to the world than one can experience personally. And for those who feel alone in their struggles, whatever they may be, learning that you are not the only one is a grounding and important affirmation. Literature enlightens, informs, and challenges while it enlarges us, all of us as well. All this is what stands to be lost as books are restricted, removed, and banned. Just imagine what Whoopi Goldberg might have said about race and the Holocaust if she had read about the Nuremberg laws or the Nazis' theory of racial hygiene. She would have understood race beyond the limits of her own experience and gained a broader and deeper view, one which would not have diminished her own experience as a Black woman in America, but further contextualized racism in all its evil. The striking point that deserves to be reiterated is that the very book, Art Spiegelman's graphic novel Mouse, to which Tennessee's McMinn County School Board is trying to restrict access, could have made a difference in her knowledge base. Ironically, restricting Mouse has caused demand for the book to soar, and now some independent bookstores are making it available just for the asking. PEN America, the organization that works to defend and celebrate free expression, notes that the number of book challenges has risen dramatically, coupled with the potential prosecution of librarians should they fail to comply. And that kind of punitive censorship is simply unacceptable in a free society. What starts with small things, with banning books, ends with bullies who threaten our fundamental liberties, as any repressed society can confirm. That observation is the blessing of learning history, even though we didn't live through it ourselves. I want to set our local events against a history that is unfolding across the globe. There is no escaping the dark cloud that rests on the horizon, hovering over the border between democratic Ukraine and its belligerent neighbor, Russia. Like the New Yorker's iconic map, which shows everything west of the Hudson as distant and hazy, for many, those nations may have fallen into that category too. Nations on the other side of the world, which had little to do with our welfare. As the aggressor continues to posture and declare its intention to take what it wants, we watch with concern, seeing how fragile democracy can be as it tries to stand up to a bully. Though theirs is a distant conflict, its ideological impact registers close to home, because our country flirts with threats to our own democracy as well. It was just a year ago that our democracy was almost lost. And it's important to remember that, not only in terms of history, but in terms of our daily life and what we need to do in order to preserve what we cherish. As Russia squares off against Ukraine, I can't help but think about what President Roosevelt Franklin said on the eve of the Second World War, when storm clouds also hovered over Europe. Roosevelt assured Americans that we would always be entitled to 4 freedoms: freedom of speech and freedom of worship, freedom from want and freedom from fear. All are essential to a thriving democracy. At this moment in our nation's life, these liberties are all entwined in a new way, in a tangle of worries, because they are at risk. the first two, freedom of speech and freedom of worship, that are enshrined in the First Amendment, make it possible for us to be Jews here. Last night, Dr. Deborah Lipstadt, Holocaust historian and nominee for State Department Ambassador and Special Envoy to monitor and combat anti-Semitism, spoke about growing concerns as anti-Semitism rises around us. The title of one of her recent articles sums it up succinctly. For Jews, going to services is an act of courage. But should it be? Fear has become a companion, not only because of Colleyville and Poway and the Tree of Life massacre, or as a result of hate crimes and rising Jew hatred. Turn to coverage of any rally which professes to have an agenda which is focused on a given topic, such as vaccines or racism or immigration. Somehow, participants never miss an opportunity to co-opt some offensive anti-Semitic symbol for its own derogatory purpose, which is simply to stir up controversy. We saw swastikas in Charlottesville and Confederate flags in the Capitol, simply meant to instill fear. Now take a look north at the signage in Ottawa. It's no different. What motivates those agitators, individuals and groups alike, is that as society changes, allowing for more diversity, ethnic, racial, gender, that they will be left behind, so that their social standing will erode as others find their place in society. And so agitators blame, they provoke, they incite, all with the goal of keeping the status quo ante by interfering with the changes they fear. When a society is off kilter, destabilized by a violent event or ideology, it is at its most vulnerable. And history teaches that an assault on democracy begins with isolating individuals and groups, making the general perception of them as an unwelcome other, whose very existence jeopardizes society as a whole. And at the same time, the aggressor poses as the victim. Because instability starts with diminishing ideas and groups, ideas that are deemed unacceptable are marginalized through propaganda, false facts, and book banning, and even book burning. All of this, incremental steps on the path to restricting access to knowledge and to ideas. And that is how bullies come to restrict access to books, not necessarily because they've read them, but because they are threatened by the ideas they contain. We are at the beginning of a cycle that has been played out time and again in many other parts of the world, and I know this only because of what I have read. If there is an antidote to bullies, it is access to the very knowledge that they seek to suppress. Shabbat Shalom.